Hi guys, welcome to math class today. Today we are working on pages 13 through 16. I'm going to skip some of the questions for you to do independently on your own, either later on today or tomorrow. Okay, so again, this is page 13. All right, so number one, use the graphing calculator to graph and find the roots. So I'm going to pull up my graphing calculator, and the first question says x squared plus 5x plus 5. I look at the graph and it looks like it's crossing somewhere between the neg1 and the neg2 and the neg3 and the neg4. So again, this is just a sketch. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to draw that. All right. Now the roots. There's two of them, and they're real. I don't have an exact value, and that's okay because I'm really just looking to see approximately where they are. Okay? All right, next one. Y equals x squared plus 4x plus 4. Graph. Oh, that looks like there's one root. Let me look at that again. Oh yeah, that's a perfect square trinomial. So remember the perfect square trinomials, they will have one root. So that's 1. It's also real. Sometimes you can say one root or two equal roots. A lot of times it just depends on the author of the question. Okay. Last one, plus 5x minus 5. Graph. Ooh, okay. So you got 1 over on the side, like around -6, and 1 like somewhere around +1. Again, I'm just estimating. So it's going to look like that. And that's 2. Got to move myself. Real. Okay. So if you remember back on page 5, there's basically 3 things that could happen. You can get 2 unequal roots, 2 equal roots, or 1 root, or you can get no roots. So that's what you can get from the picture. Now, sometimes you're not going to see it in the window of the graphing calculator. You may have to play with your window a little bit. All right, so the graph can tell us the nature of the roots. So if I look here, I can tell that that's 2 real roots. If I look here, I could tell that that's 1 real root or 2 equal roots. If I look here, can't find it touching, crossing, going anywhere near the x-axis. So that would be no real roots. Okay. Now, if something is not real, it's called imaginary. You don't have to know that. You just have to basically know that it's not real. Okay? When something is real, it can be rational or irrational. Rational, that's anything that can be expressed as a ratio, A over B, where both A and B are integers, but B doesn't equal 0. Because the denominator of a fraction can't equal 0. Remember, that makes it undefined. We can actually tell all of this by just looking at the discriminant. The discriminant is that part that's under the radical sign when you do the quadratic formula. So, x is equal to -b plus or minus square root. That, which is under the square root, is the discriminant. So we're only going to look at the b squared minus 4ac today. If you think back a couple days ago, when we were looking for the axis of symmetry, we were only looking at the x is equal to negative b over 2a. So this quadratic formula, it's really popular. Okay, so I'm going to find the discriminant. So I'm just going to look for the a, the b, and the c. Now, I really should have had that either equal to y or equal to 0. So that's my fault, but fill it in yourself, okay? All right, so I'm going to do b squared minus 4 times a times c. And you can just bop that in your calculator, okay? 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 12 is negative 8. Now remember, if you multiply two of the same number, you always get a positive answer. So like that can't happen. That's why it's called not real, because it can't happen. So that's not real. Not real. Imaginary. Okay. So find the A, find the B, find the C. B squared minus 4 times, whoops, I made a mistake there. Hold on one second. I think that's the eraser. Yeah. Okay, back. A, C. Okay. So 9 minus 40 equals negative 31. Not real. So if you get a discriminant that is negative, you would say that there are no real roots. And again, you can bop that straight in the calculator. When I put it in the calculator, I use the parentheses. It's to me, it's just like cleaner and neater. All right. So that's page 13. If you have any questions, remember, you can just email me. All right. So I'm going to do the odds, and I'm going to leave the evens for you to do on your own. So you would consider 2, 4, and 6 homework. Okay? All right. So we're only using the b squared minus 4ac part. Okay. So b squared minus 4 times a times c. Be careful. Make sure you get the correct signs. All right, so bop that in my calculator. I get 76. So that's the discriminant. Okay, now if I tried to find the square root of 76, it would be irrational. So it's going to give me 2 real roots, but they're going to be irrational. Okay, so b squared minus 4ac. 16 and 80, so 96. Okay, so 96, that's not a perfect square, so I'm going to get 2 real irrational roots. Okay, number 5. B squared minus 4ac. Remember, a is in front of the square, the quadratic term, b is in front of the linear term, and c is the constant. So 25 minus 8 is 17. Same thing. 2 real irrational roots. Okay? Please do 2, 4, and 6 on your own. And remember, we're using the honor system. Don't make me come to your house. I'm sure some of you might want to see me, some of you might not, but just do your work, guys, okay? All right, so page 15, this is sort of like a summary sheet, okay? So if the discriminant is a perfect square, so like, for example, if I had the square root of 64, we all know the square root of 64 is 8, okay? Positive 8, negative 8, but 8. So therefore, I'm going to get 2 real rational roots. 2 real rational roots. If the discriminant is positive, but not a perfect square, let's say the square root of 60, the expression cannot be simplified without the radical sign. So yeah, irrational. So 2 real irrational roots. Okay. If the discriminant is 0, the square root is 0. Oh, that's add 0 or subtract 0. Well, if I add 0, nothing happens. If I subtract 0, nothing happens. So that means that the roots would be equal. So I would get 2 real equal roots. They would be rational. And it's also sometimes called one root. That always happens when you have a perfect square trinomial. Perfect square trinomial. Okay. What if the discriminant is negative? Like the square root of negative 16. That can't happen. Crazy, imaginary, no real roots. Imaginary. Okay. Remember, real numbers. They're broken into 2 categories. Rational. That is where most of our answers are. Like, you never even dealt with an irrational number until you learned about circles and you learned about pi. Before that, everything was rational. Fractions, decimals, big numbers, small numbers. Rational, irrational. That's the weird stuff, the stuff that we just can't figure out an exact answer for, because there is no exact answer for it other than the symbolic form. Okay? Pi, e, the square root of 3, the square root of 7. Okay? All right. So you're going to do A. Just describe the roots. So find the discriminant and then tell me whether they're rational, irrational, 1 or 2, real, imaginary, etc. Okay. B. I'm going to do B with you. All right. So we're looking for imaginary roots. If you're looking for imaginary roots, your b squared minus 4ac has to be less than 0 because that means that the discriminant is negative. Okay? So b in this case is 6. So 6 squared minus 4, a is 1, and c is the unknown. So I'm solving that for c. 36 minus 4c is less than 0. So negative 4c is less than negative 36. Subtract 36, subtract 36. Divide by negative 4. When you divide by a negative, you flip it. So c has to be greater than 9. So any number greater than 9, 9.1, 10, 1,000, that's going to produce imaginary roots. It's k in the equation, okay? All right. 2 equal roots. Oh, that means that this is a perfect square trinomial. So 2 times x squared minus 2x plus blankety blank. Okay, so what would go on that blank? Negative 2 divided by 2 equals negative 1. Negative 1 squared equals 1. That blank is 1. So that blank is 1. But due to the distributive property, 2 times 1, I really added a 2, so k equals 2. Okay, so if the discriminant is negative, sketch a possible graph. If it's negative, that means that this does not touch the x-axis at all. So it's above it. That looks a little weird. Or it could be below it. But it can't touch that. Okay? All right. So you're just going to do E by yourself. So just to remind you, please do E by yourself. Do A by yourself, and it's not multiple choice. Let's be serious. There's 4 parts there. And then way back here on page 14, you're doing these 3. Okay? That's your independent work. You can shut down the computer. You can do it on scrap paper. I would try to keep track of everything. You're probably not going to use the entire composition notebook. So if you want to start using that, great. If you were able to print the packet, great. Just do things right in the packet. However you are doing it, as long as you're doing it and it works for you, that's the way to do it. All right? Keep calm, stay home, stay safe. And I really hope to see you soon. Maybe June. Yeah, June. Okay? Bye.